Again in my coughing before. I la 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 ya la la hi la ya la 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 ya la la ya la la ya la ya la 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 dri la 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 dri la 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 dri la 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 ya la 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 dri la 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 dri la 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 dri la 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 ya la 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 I la 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 la. So shalom aleichem to Aryeh and to Katie who's watching, and to my mother and everybody else who will join us V'ezrat Hashem either today or in the future. Still recovering from, no, I'm not sick, Baruch Hashem, just have a stupid cough. It's annoying me, so the Chaim. I'm drinking tea, which I can't even remember the last time I drank tea. I wanted to bring my guitar, but my family are so religious, they hid it somewhere in the house, so they didn't want me to play it on Sfirat HaOmer, I guess. And I figured Chabad is very strict about not playing music until after the Sfira is completely over. I figured tonight it's so close to Lag BaOmer, which just ended, like half an hour ago or something, that would have been okay. But I couldn't find it. It's really fascinating, by the way, just before we start, what a big deal Lag BaOmer is, and how it's from the Rabbi Shimon died in the year 160, and we're in 2026. That's amazing, and still making a big deal of his yard site. It just shows you how unique and special he must have been to have such a lasting impact. Okay, so we're on Torah Peh, and we're going to finish it tonight, B'ezrat Hashem. That is the plan. As Reb Shalom used to like to say, those are the Gullus plans. If Mashiach doesn't come before we finish the lesson, and then maybe if he comes, we'll finish the lesson anyhow. El. Shalom Aleichem. Okay, so we're learning about Hashem wants to give us abundance. He gives us abundance through the vessel of Shalom. Shalom doesn't mean peace in this situation. It means bringing two opposites together. And in just a minute, we're going to go down the whole list of all 11 opposites that were brought in this lesson. And bringing the two opposites together is the way that we receive the blessing of the opening verse, which is where we are right now. So that's pretty much a quick summary. And also Yosef HaTzadik is the model for the bringing together of the two opposites. We're going to see that in just a minute. Yevaer ketzad hasaga b'Torah zo mitlabeshet b'pasuk shebo patach haTorah. Now he's going to explain how the deeper understanding of this Torah is enclosed in the opening verse. V'zeh perush pasuk, and this is the verse from Tehillim. Hashem oz la'amo yiten, Hashem yivarech et amo v'shalom. Sorry if that bothers the people with the microphone. It's just when I talk, I start coughing. Yeah, Friday night was a lot of fun. But I somehow did it. Hashem gives strength to his people. He blesses his people with shalom. Hainu, k'moshe peresh Rashi, as Rashi explained, Kshe Hashem yivarech brachot yeshuot begashmiut al yidei kli hashalom. When Hashem blesses with blessings and abundance in a physical way through the vessel of Shalom, Azai Oz, then we get Oz. And what is Oz? Shehiyah Torah, which is the Torah. Kamo Ken La'amo yiten, that it, so too, Hashem gave the Torah to the Jewish people. Hainu, shetikablun ulpan chada. That is, that you receive new understandings of the Torah. Chidushim, shehem yeshuot beruchniut. So we have the two types of salvation. One, we have physical stuff. Hashem is going to actually send us health and children and money and all of the things that we need. And Hashem is also going to give us new understandings of the Torah. So we're receiving both of these things. Lesikum, to summarize, he's now going to talk about the 11 different pairs of opposites. Shekli hashalom miyached umechaber otam liot le'achad. That the vessel of shalom brings them together and combines them into one. V'al yedei zeh ba'a bracha gashmit, and through this comes the physical blessing, shel yeshuot rabot, of many salvations. Umikocha ba'a bracha uchanit shel Torah chadasha. And in the spiritual way, we receive a new understanding of the Torah. Vehem, and these are the 11 opposites. Chasadim ugvurot, kindness and stringency. Mayim ve'esh, water and fire. Yad yamin v'yad smol, the right hand, the left hand. Mashpir, mefarnes, v'shalit, the one who's providing for everyone and the one who's the ruler. And these are all things that were used for describing Yosef. Av b'chochma v'rach b'shanim, he's wise like an older person, but but youthful like a younger person. Mochim de gadlut, has an expanded consciousness. V'mochim de katnut, and has a constricted or small-minded consciousness. Shalhevet ahavat Hashem v'koach itkabrut al yetzer. A great fire of passion for Hashem, and the power of overcoming one's yitzhara. Mochin v'dibur, mind, thinking, and speech. Shem Havaya, Shem Elokim, the name of Hashem that starts with Yud Ke and Vav Ke, and the name Elokim. Chesed v'din, kindness and judgment. Yadayim v'raglayim, hands and feet. So these were the 11 hafuchim, the opposites that were brought in this lesson. They were brought together, and by bringing them together, we have the blessing of shalom. Shalom is what allows us to receive the abundance from above. Mikan yiva'er Reb Nassan b'lashono v'tikar nosei the Torah didan. So now Reb Nassan is going to summarize this Torah in his words. It's only a couple paragraphs here. Miva'er Reb Nassan zal. Reb Nassan explains. Nir'eh be'or ha'inyan כי על ידי השלום יכולים לדבר דיבורים בקדושה, היינו ללמוד ולהתפלל בכוונה. If we look at this lesson, we can understand from it that through having shalom, a person is able to speak words of holiness, that is to learn Torah and to daven with kavana, with intention. B'mochim shenikraim kodesh, with a consciousness that's called holy. So a person can reach a place of holiness in their learning and their davening through shalom, because you're bringing together two opposites. Ki ashalom mechaber shnei avachim, because peace or shalom brings together two opposites, chasadim gvurot, kindness and stringency, shezeh b'chinat Yosef, which is connected to Yosef, and b'chinat misirat nefesh al kiddush Hashem kanal, which is connected to the self-sacrifice for the sake of Hashem, as mentioned above. Ve'ikar hakdusha hu chochma u'mochim de kedusha. And the main expression of holiness is through chochma, wisdom, and having a mind or consciousness of holiness. Ki sfirat chochma nikra kodesh, because the attribute or the sphera of chochma, of wisdom, is called kodesh, kayadua, as it's known. Ki kodesh hu b'chinat reshit, because kodesh is connected to reshit, which is first, k'mo shekatuv, as it's written, Kodem Yisrael Hashem Rishit Tevuata. That the Jewish people are Hashem's first produce or harvest. Kikon Reshit Ukodesh, because everything that's first is Kodesh, is brought, I guess, as a sacrifice. Firstborn and the first crops and all of those things are set aside as Kodesh. And Kodesh, the meaning of Kodesh is to separate. When we say Nekadesh bein Yom Kadosh Yom Chol, I don't remember the exact wording we'd say. And when we make Havdalah, that's what we say. Havdalah, which means separations, the Kadesh is to separate. Shalom Aleichem, dear Carlos. B'chol makom, in every place, ki hareshit v'ashoresh and kol davar hu ma sheyonek me'akadusha, because the beginning, the first, and the root of everything is when it draws its sustenance from holiness. V'reshit hu b'chinat sfirat chochma, k'mo shekatuv, reshit chochma. So these are all text proofs that are coming to prove his point that thinking is connected to holiness, and he's making the connection through Reshit, and that the Jewish people are in Hashem's consciousness, and we are the first produce, and that's connected to holiness, being separated, and he brings that back. Uksha'adam zocher ledaber diburim kedoshim shehem diburim shem Torah tefillah. When a person merits to speak holy words, which are words of davening and or Torah and davening, machnis kol mocho v'chochmato v'da'ato b'toch hadiburim, and the person puts their whole consciousness and their whole intellect and their whole awareness into the words that they're saying. Dahainu shemekasher machshavato heitev ladiburim. That is, they connect their thoughts very well to the things that they're saying. Right? Sometimes you say things and you can hear the words coming out of your mouth, but you're not conscious of what you're really saying. But here, when you're learning Torah, you're focusing, or you have the ability to focus and concentrate and put everything into it, and the words that you're saying are connected to your thoughts. Umevinu shomea mashehu medaber, and the person hears and understands what they're saying. V'zeu b'chinat kodesh, and this is connected to kodesh. V'yesh laHashem yitbarach tanu gadol mizeh, and Hashem receives enormous pleasure from this. V'zeu b'chinat shalom, and this is connected to shalom. Shu b'chinat itchabrut chasadim ugvurot, which is connected to bringing together the two opposites of kindness and stringency. Ki hu mechaber umekasher b'chochma achokma v'amochin, because this brings together the wisdom and the thinking. Shem b'chinat chasadim, which is connected to kindness, kanal, la dibor, to the speech, which is called gvurot. So the mochim, the thought, I hope I don't screw something up here. My phone's going a little crazy. 1 second. I gotta put the light down. My screen is broken. Tikunim. Speech is connected to kindness, and thought is connected, the other way. Thought is connected to kindness, and speech is connected to gvura. And I guess if you think about it, thinking is a lot easier than speaking. Sometimes you have like all these thoughts, and somebody says to you, like say your wife says to you, "What are you thinking?" Like, I don't have any energy to tell you. If she could just read my mind, she would know. But to actually get the words out of my mouth, sometimes I'm too tired to I say, I'll tell you another time. So that takes pushing, gvura. When I prepare the lesson, many times I go over it in the morning, and then I go over it again before I come, and sometimes I'm just reading it without even saying the words. It's just all in my head. Just going over everything and saying, okay, got that, I got that. That's a lot easier than saying every word out loud. And when you say every word out loud and then you focus and concentrate on what you're saying, that's the higher level. V'zeu b'chinat Yosef, and this is connected to Yosef Kanal, as mentioned above, sheyesh lo koach lechaber et hachasadim v'agvurot, mochim v'diburim. That Yosef has the ability to bring together kindness and stringency, thought and speech. V'an kain ne'amar b'Yosef, and that's why it said about Yosef, ומבלעדיך לא ירים איש את ידו ואת רגלו. This is Pharaoh that said to Yosef, without your saying, nobody will raise a hand or a foot. כי יוסף הוא כלול בבחינת ידיים ורגליים, because Yosef brings together these two aspects of hands and feet, שהם בבחינת חוכמה ודיבור, which is connected to thought and speech. כי ידיים זה בחינת חוכמה, because hands are connected to wisdom. בבחינת קודש, which are connected to קודש, כמו שכתוב, because as it's written, שאו ידיכם קודש, raise your hands up in a holy way, ורגלין זה בבחינת הדיבור וכולי כנ"ל. And feet are connected to speech, as mentioned above. So I guess moving your feet is harder to move than your hands. The speech is connected to something that takes a greater effort than the thought. And that's why it's connected to gevura. And also moving, like if somebody says, hand me that over there, and you can go like this, then you do it. But if it's in the other room, and you have to get up and go get it, that's a little harder. What was the joke in my house? One of my kids said to me, do you want some water? And I said, yeah. They said, good, bring me one when you come back to the table. So that joke went around the house for like a week till it annoyed everybody. Like, you want a pancake? Yeah. Good. When you make one, give me one. And then one of the kids said, you know what? Bali pancakeim. I have to make pancakes. And then they make pancakes for everyone. And the kid's like, you see? It worked. Umikan yever, so we're on Vav. Umikan yever, etza nifla'a. I love how he writes this. On Pia Torah Dina. Now he's going to reveal to us a wondrous piece of advice connected to this Torah. Kitzad yuchal ha'adam lechaber et machshavato im diburo b'tfilah. How does a person bring their thought and speech together in davening? Okay, so that's a good promise. Like if you make a promise, you gotta fulfill the promise. An kein tzrichim la'asok b'torah ba'avodat Hashem b'mesiut nefesh. So when we learn Torah, we have to do it with a way of mesiut nefesh. Meaning, even if it's not easy, even if it's not comfortable, we're still pushing forward, we're still doing it. Ubefrat b'shat tefillah, and this is specifically during davening. Sheikar shlemut tefillah hu litpalen b'mesiut nefesh. That what is the real way of davening? It's to daven with a type of self-sacrifice. Sheyichaven limtzon nafsho al kiddush Hashem. That a person should have in mind, specifically during Kriyat Shema, that you're willing to give up your life, physically give up your life for Hashem. Klomar, that is to say, sheyigmo beda'ato, that a person should make a decision in their mind, shehu muchan lamut al kiddush Hashem, that they're willing to die for the sake of Hashem. Ubemachshava zo yitpalel, and with this level, they should start their davening. V'davar zeh shayach lekol adam, and this everybody can achieve. Ki mesut nefesh al kiddush Hashem, because giving up one's life for the sake of Hashem, bevadai mirutze kol achad miYisrael, and of course everybody, every single Jew wants to and longs to give up their life for Hashem. Now, I think most people don't long to give up their life for Hashem, but when the moment comes, it will be clear to you that yes, now I do want to give up my life for Hashem. You know, if it came down to a situation where a Hamas terrorist, God forbid, is pointing a gun at you and say, if you convert to Islam and I won't kill you, and you say, no, I'd rather die a Jew. And you know, the Nazis did stuff like this. They would tell people, do something, do this, and I won't kill you. Then they would force them to do some terrible thing, and then they would kill them. So, you know, you can't take this this terrorist's word if he says, convert to Islam and I won't kill you. You might convert to Islam, and then he'll kill you, and just before he kills you, you'll say, well, what are you doing? You said, if I converted to Islam, you wouldn't kill me. He said, yeah, but now at least you're dying as a Muslim. I did you a favor, but now I'm going to kill you. So when you're in that situation, your neshama knows that I want to die as a Jew. That being a Jew is the most important thing. And we have these incredible stories of the hostages and the tunnels that would make Kiddush on nothing. and this one hostage that was given a Dvar Malchut, and he learned it for like a whole year or something like that, or more. The same Dvar Malchut again and again and again. So that's where it comes from. So he says, of course every Jew wants to give their life for Hashem. And essentially they do, just not on the conscious level. Even the lightest of the light, meaning the most distant people connected to Torah and mitzvot. As we've already seen it with our own eyes in the generations before us, I can't say this, chutim, and I guess on a lower level, the people that were not taking Judaism seriously, masru nafsham umetu al kiddush Hashem. They were willing to give up their lives and die for the sanctity of Hashem's name. In the time when the non-Jews wanted to separate this person from being a Jew, Ashrei lehem, may those people be blessed. The moment that a person is willing to give up their lives for Hashem, this attribute of shalom appears within them. It's aroused within them. This is connected to Yosef, as mentioned above. And through this a person can speak, that is to connect the thought with the speech. That this is the main attribute of holiness, as mentioned above. That a person merits this through peace, or through shalom, as mentioned above. And this is what's hinted at in the verse, Boneh Yerushalayim Havaya, that Hashem builds Jerusalem and brings the exiled together in Jerusalem. Yerushalayim hu b'chinat hadibor. Yerushalayim is connected to speech, because Yerushalayim was the king of Jerusalem, and the king rules through speech, and speech is connected to Malchut, and Malchut is I guess speech and kingship. Havaya, the name Hashem Yud Kei Vav Kei, Ubchinat Mochim is connected to thought, as mentioned above. Hainu, liskot lekasher hamoach el hadibur, that is, that a person merits to connect their thought to their speech. V'zeu b'chinat bonei Yerushalayim Hashem, and this is connected to Hashem builds Jerusalem. Shamochim bonim hadibur b'kedusha, that the mind builds the speech in holiness. V'zeh zochim al yedei nitcheis yichanes. And how do we merit to build Jerusalem? We do it by taking the people that are far away and bringing them back together in the land of Israel. This is connected to self-sacrifice for the sake of Hashem. That all of those that are distant from the holiness of the Jewish people, when people want to change their religion, God forbid, then immediately comes up within them, they're willing to sacrifice themselves for the sanctity of Hashem. Nimtza, it follows, she'al yedei kiddush Hashem nichnasin kol hanidachim mekedushat Yisrael letoch hakdusha. It follows that when a person is willing to give up their lives for the sake of Hashem, that's what brings together all of the far parts of the Jewish people. So there's two levels going on here. When a person, let's take the Lubavitcher Rebbe, for example. What was the Mesiut Nefesh of the Lubavitcher Rebbe? Specifically the last Rebbe. Had he come here to Jerusalem, he probably would have been the head of the Sanhedrin. Maybe they would have rebuilt the temple. Who knows what? There would have been something very unique and special that couldn't happen in New York. But the Rebbe knew that the real work is bringing the Jews in America closer to Judaism. And so he chose to go to a place that was very hard. And that's Mesirut Nefesh, that's self-sacrifice. And what was he doing there? He was bringing the Nidachim, Mikdushat Yisrael, Letoch HaKdusha. Those that were distant from being connected to the holiness of the Jewish people, into the holiness of the Jewish people. And I'm one of those people that his shluchim went and put tefillin on, and mitzvah grow at mitzvah. And one of the reasons of sitting here today is because of the Lubavitcher Rebbe. So you have the level of Mesirut Nefesh, and you have the bringing the people that are far away back in. But also we have it in ourselves when we're davening. So we have the level of ourself, which is already on a high level. And then we have our thoughts that go all over the place. They're the nidachim. They're the ones that are distant and far away. And we're able to bring them all together in our thoughts. If a person can really reach the place, I've done this many times in davening. I think it was the Baal Shem Tov, I don't remember who it was, that said that they imagined themselves burning in, what did they call it? Something defay. I know David is going to write to me and give me the correction for this. Auto defay, I think is what it was called. When they would kill Jews during the Spanish Inquisition, it was like a purification through fire. So they wouldn't convert to Christianity. They would wrap them sometimes in a Sefer Torah. Sometimes they would wrap them in wet cloth so that the fire would take longer to kill them. And it would be like a terrible death. And the Baal Shem Tov, if I'm not mistaken, before he said Shema, would imagine himself being burned in the Spanish Inquisition in the most painful way, and with that he would say Shema. And that's what Rabbi Nachman is saying here, where you can reach this place of Mesirut Nefesh just in your thinking, and that brings together these opposites within you, which allows you to focus your thoughts and your speech in davening, and then reach a truly holy place. So that's what he's saying up until this point. And this is the meaning of those that are distant will be brought together, and the distant of the Jewish people. And through this, through this Hashem will build Jerusalem. Because sacrificing one's life for Hashem is connected to Shalom. That through this a person can connect thought with speech. And this is the meaning of that Hashem builds Jerusalem. Nimtza, it follows. That it comes out from this Torah that we learned, and this is the last paragraph. A wondrous advice in serving Hashem. And specifically when a person is davening. When a person sees that they're not able to daven at all. And for sure they're not able to connect their thought with the speech, right? You can go through all of the davening and be thinking about something else entirely. You can think about movies, you can think about work, you can think about all your problems, and you're saying every word out loud, and you finish Aleinu. The joke that Reb Shalom used to say is people would ask each other in shul, did you daven? And they'd say, well, I'm not obligated to daven again. Did I really daven? No. But did I say the words? Yes. So for him, I guess I didn't grow up with the davening, so it takes a lot of concentration to say the words, although my mind can definitely drift even without growing up with the davening. But I remember him saying that one of his big challenges was going through the davening and actually paying attention to what he's saying. Azai yazkir et atzmo. So let's go back for a second. She'adam ro'eh she'ino yachol להתפלל כלל ולקשר מחשבה לדיבור. When a person sees that they're not able to daven at all and to connect their thought with their speech, azai yazkir et atzmo, then a person should remind themselves שהוא בוודאי מרוצה למות על קידוש Hashem, that a person is willing to die for the sake of Hashem. And that will change your way of thinking about the davening and your state of mind. Ki af al pi shehu kumo shehu, because no matter what spiritual level you're on, afilu imu be-diyuta, be-madriga atachtona ma'od, even if a person is on the lowest spiritual level, af al pi chen im hayu rotzim la'aviro al dat lagamre chas v'shalom. But nonetheless, if a person threatened to force you to become a Christian, God forbid, bevadai hayam moser nafsho al kiddush Hashem. For sure, a Jew will be willing to sacrifice their lives for the sake of Hashem. It makes me think about the people in the Inquisition. There were many Jews that, they said, sure, no problem. Well, sprinkle some water on us, we'll say some words in Latin, and we'll pretend that we're Christians. I don't think very many of those Jews came out as Jews in the end. The Christians actually pulled off what they wanted. So they were hidden Jews. They're called Moranos, which is a derogatory term. Anusim is what they call them in Hebrew, which is hidden ones, if I'm not mistaken. And they had these hidden communities, they would have hidden shuls, hidden things, and it was passed down from generation to generation. You're a Jew, but they couldn't say it, so they would say, we light candles, or we say this one prayer, and they would hold on to one thing, but many of those descendants simply became Christians. Now, with the modern state of Israel, you have people that are discovering their Jewish roots. It's very rare. I did meet one woman that was able to prove from the Spanish Inquisition that she's Jewish. And she just had to have a Giyur L'Chumrah. She just had to go to the mikveh. She didn't have to have any conversion. But most people, they can scrape together maybe some things, but the Beit Din won't accept it. But what I'm trying to say is that the Jews that died al Kiddush Hashem, they died as Jews. The ones that became hidden Jews, eventually their children, grandchildren, and so on, simply became Christians. Was it the right choice or not? I don't know. It's a difficult choice to make. Honestly, I don't know what I would do. I would hope that I would be on the level that Rabbi Nachman says. That here you have a choice and we're like, goodbye. We're out of here. But I don't know. Not an easy decision to make. Ki al ze merutze afilu posh'ei Yisrael lamut al kiddush Hashem. He says, even the sinners of the Jewish people are happy to sacrifice their lives for the sake of Hashem. V'lo la'avor al dat chas v'shalom, and not to convert to another religion, God forbid. Kasher ra'inu b'chush pa'amim, as we saw many times, ein mispar, endless times, kanal is mentioned above. V'techev sheyazkir et atzmo, sherotze limtzo nafsho al kiddush Hashem. Immediately after a person reminds themselves that they're willing to sacrifice themselves for the sake of Hashem, al yedei ze yitorer etzlo b'bchinat shalom. Then this attribute of shalom is going to come out of this hidden place within the person, b'bchinat Yosef, which is connected to Yosef, shehu b'chinat itchabrut moach v'adibur kanan, which is the connection of the mind and speech as mentioned above, meaning connection of two opposites, the connection of, I didn't think I was going to be willing to sacrifice my life, but now I'm at the moment, now I can do it. What happened? So you reached a higher level of consciousness. The parts of your body that were separate and running in different directions all came together and marched in a single column as one unit, and you reached a place that you couldn't have reached otherwise. So when a person focuses on, I'm truly willing to give up my life when it comes to this moment, if it ever comes, God forbid, and they reach that place in their thoughts, then it'll bring them to the place where they can connect their thought and speech and davening. V'chein shamati mipiv HaKadosh, and so this is Reb Nassan that says that I heard from Rabbi Nachman's holy mouth, she'amar zot betoch sichato HaKadosha ledavar pashut, she'tzrichim litpalel b'mesirut nefesh. That he said this when he was giving over another talk, in the most simple way, he said, when we daven, we have to daven with Mesiut Nefesh. Hainu, that is to say, she'achshov kodem tfilato, that a person should think before they begin to daven, shehu muchan umizuman limtzot nafsho al kiddush Hashem, v'chein yavo litpalel b'chavana. That a person is willing and ready to give up their lives for the sake of Hashem, and with this, they should come into the davening. That's the end of the lesson. So, Bezat Hashem, we shouldn't have to get to that point. And we can use it as a tool to inspire us in the davening. Have you ever tried that, Aryeh?
No.
No?
Not yet.
I like these things. They don't bother me. I picture myself in all kinds of ways. There's the famous story of, what's his name? I forgot, it's a strange name. Potts, what is it? I can't pronounce it. Pototsky or something like that. He was a guy who converted. There's this whole long story. He was like the king, he was the son of these very wealthy noblemen, and he converted to Judaism, and he moved to Amsterdam, and eventually he moved back. You know the story, right? Eventually he moved back to Poland or wherever he was, and somebody outed him that he converted. And then he was killed because he converted. And the Baal Shem Tov, who was there and watching the whole thing, he said Shema with this guy. Like the Baal Shem Tov was standing in a tree, watching in a distance, and the Baal Shem Tov was saying Shema. At the same time, this guy said Shema before he died, and the Baal Shem Tov always pictured himself dying on Kiddush Hashem because of this guy. That's the very long story short. So it's something you can do. You can just imagine. However you want to imagine it. You're in an intimate place in davening. Essentially what he's saying is that you're creating an even more intimate space when you do this in your thinking. You're creating this relationship with Hashem that you're really willing to sacrifice yourself. And then Hashem is going to activate that shalom trigger inside of you, which enables you to bring together thought and speech, and then that enables you to reach a higher level of the davening. So that's the essence of the lesson. Okay, I have a short story. I think I told this story before. I'm pretty sure I told this story before because the story is very memorable. I don't think I told it on the podcast. I told you I lost my hard drive, right? I lost the hard drive. I did a Windows update, and when it came back up, I noticed my hard drive was missing. One of my hard drives. I have a bunch of them. And my whole podcast, everything, all the websites I worked on, podcasts, everything, all gone. Yeah, and I had a backup, of course, and it wasn't there. That's how backups work. So I've been able to recreate most of the files. And it's 2,000 shekels to fix the hard drive. When I get paid later this month, as at Hashem, I'll fix the hard drive. So that's how I search for stories that I've told on the podcast or not. My whole library is gone. So the Bridvaz, Rabbi Yaakov David Wilovsky, who lived, it just says the last years of his life, the last 9 years of his life, he lived in the holy city of Tzfat. Before that, he was the chief rabbi of Slotsk in Poland, and in the early 1900s, I guess a few years before he moved to Tzfat, he was in Chicago in the United States, and he was considered one of the greatest Torah geniuses of his generation. It was a cold winter afternoon in Tzfat, and the Ridvaz came to shul for mincha earlier than his usual time. It was his father's yard site, and he stood there at the stender in the front of the shul, and he was deep in thought, and when people came in, they saw him crying. And they said to him, Rabbi, he was already an old man. They said, Rabbi, we know it's your father's yard site, but your father died 50 years ago, and he was 80 years old, so you really don't have any reason to cry. And he said, well, I'm thinking about something that happened with my parents. So his parents hired the best tutor for him, right? You don't become the best, one of the greatest geniuses of the generation without a good tutor. They hired the best tutor for him, and it cost 1 ruble, 1 ruble every 6 months, or 1 ruble a year, something like that. And and his parents are very poor. His father supported them by building ovens. And one winter, there wasn't any cement or plaster to be found, so he couldn't build any ovens. And it was every month, so every month it was a ruble. So they told the Melamed, when there's more plaster, I'll have more work, I'll pay you back. And he kept working with this young boy, Rabbi Yaakov David. But at some point after 3 months, the Melamed said, listen, you don't pay me, I'm not teaching you anymore. And the parents were distraught because their son was a genius, they wanted him to keep learning, it was very important to them. And then in shul, they heard that there was a wealthy Jew who was building a house for his daughter, but they didn't have the bricks. They had plaster now, but they didn't have bricks apparently, to build the oven for her house. And the rich man was offering 6 rubles to anyone that could get him an oven. Now, in Russia, the necessity of having an oven wasn't just for cooking, but it kept the whole house warm. I don't know about places in America. I remember in the UK, when I spent a year in the UK, that's how many people kept their houses warm. They had like a central oven that they cooked in. It had different sections in it. They had different heat levels, and it was on all winter long. So not having an oven was a big deal. And his father returned home from shul, discussed it with his mother, and they agreed that he would dismantle their oven brick by brick and rebuild it for the wealthy Jew. And then they would have 6 rubles, that would be 6 months of tutoring for their son. And they agreed, and his father disassembled their oven, reassembled it for the daughter of the wealthy Jew, got his 6 rubles, and they were very cold that winter, and they had a hard time cooking as well. I'm not sure exactly what they did. And he said, so there he's standing at the mincha before his father's yard site, and he said, so you see, here it's a cold day. And he thought about staying at home, but then he said, with the effort that my father made for my Torah learning, even if it's a cold day, I have to come here and say Kaddish for him and daven for him. And if it weren't for their self-sacrifice, that's interesting. I just realized that it's connected to the lesson. If it wasn't for their self-sacrifice, he wouldn't be the great Torah scholar that he was that in his day. So, Be'ezrat Hashem, we should all stay warm. We should all have ovens, should have wealth and Torah and everything. And also Mesirut Nefesh, but in a good and happy way. Shkoyach to everybody for watching and for Arya for sticking around. And we'll continue again next week, Be'ezrat Hashem.